Hey guys, Equinox here, and it's going to be the Season 4 Azure Vault guide. I'll have the route link down below, and let's get right into it. So the only really important mobs in this first area are the Crystal Furies for you specifically as a tank. And this mob just does Arcane Fury and Piercing Shards. Arcane Fury is a cast that increases their damage done by 50%. So don't let that go off if you can help it. And then they do Piercing Shards. Now these Piercing Shards, you just CC them and they don't recast. If they do go off, they do a big initial hit and leave a nasty dot. So just be wary of that. Diffuse does work on this. This is magic damage. And then these little Conjured Lashes do an ability called Mystic Vapors. This is also CCable, and you want to treat it just like Piercing Charge, where they CC and they don't recast. So the Mystic Vapors cast frequency was reduced for Season 4, so this will reduce the CC requirement by like 20-30%, because you'll have to do it much less often. And then these big trees right here, they just do an ability called Erratic Growth, which is a cast that you have to kick. If it goes off, it makes the person a tree, and if you dispel them, they'll have a big circle around them. If anyone is in that circle when you dispel, or it expires, actually I think it's just spell, and then it'll turn them into a tree. So just kick that, and then they'll do pools on the ground. These pools do instant tick. So whenever you do these mobs, the puddles they leave will just one-shot you on a higher 4 key, so just be wary of that. And these little slimes, when they die, also do a channeled ability called Sappy Burst. You can Ring of Peace these, and it'll just cancel the Sappy Burst. And so, like, say you're doing Laymore, right? And he does his little ads that he spawns, and you press Boon, and they all die. You can just ROP, and you won't get hit by the puddles. And that's it. That's the whole first area. So this first boss was changed. He has one mechanic that was changed. The Erupting Fissure, if you guys played in Season 1, you know that that ability was stationary whenever it went off. It's just where it is. But now in Season 4, it follows the tank. So that means this boss not only has one tank buster with the Infused Strike, it has two tank busters. So let's go over Infused Strikes first. So Infused Strike, I'm going to go ahead and pause it just so we can get to the next part. So Infused Strike is just a big initial hit that leaves a nasty dot. So the way you're going to tank this fight as Brew is you're always going to do your big defensive on the Infused Strike. This is the harder part. So you're going to use Diffuse or Dampen or Fort Brew on the Infused Strike. And then on the Erupting Fissure, you're going to use Celestial Brew. Every single time, you can rinse and repeat this every single set. And the way you deal with the Erupting Fissure is you just want to hit as many trees as possible. The end of the Erupting Fissure is way bigger than the animation shows, so don't be afraid to, like, kind of overestimate it. And you just want to clear as many trees as possible. And that's it. That's the whole fight. And then he's going to do this knockback. You just want to put the circle over as many trees as possible, and for every tree left over, he does more damage on his stomp. And so the stomp just does big AoE damage. Like I said, the more trees are up, the more damage does. Then all the ads come out of the trees, you kill them, rinse, repeat. That's the entire fight. So remember, CD, as a Brewmaster specifically, CD the Infused Strike, and then Celestial Brew the Erupting Fissure. As a warrior, you can Spell Reflect the Infused Strike, so don't be afraid to do that. Super big help. If you have a Fury Warrior or an Arms Warrior, don't be afraid to ask them to taunt for the Infused Strike too. The timing is kind of rough though, so might die on that. And that's it for that part. The next area is literally just the first area, but the only change is there's a Crystal Thrasher. The next pull. It's just a Crystal Thrasher in this pull, and all he does is a giant AoE around him that does a massive amount of magic damage. It basically one-shots you. And then it roots you. But, so one thing, you can pre-freedom this. So if you have Hunter Freedom or Paladin Freedom, you can just have Freedom on the tank, or even like if he has Unbound Freedom, you can Freedom yourself and the tank, and it'll make them immune to the damage. It won't do any damage. And if you decide to pull them in, there's also the Arcane Elemental. They just do Waking Bane now. They don't do the Arcane Bolt. So yeah, you're going to go on to this next part, and you're going to see what I'm talking about with the So we're going to move down to this part. And whenever to summon these, you just had to hit these dragons. It triggers them. Same with the first pull. And these guys do all the Piercing Shard stuff that they did before, plus the giant AoE root. And this is the giant AoE root. And that's it. You just walk out. And again, you can pre-freedom this. Tiger's Lust, you cannot pre-Tiger's Lust or whatever. That doesn't work. And if you want to skip these, you can Shroud or you can like pair or Rop them. I think you might need 2 Rops, or you can just do like a Shadow Melt thing. Now this area, I'm going to pause it really quick just because it's going to go really fast. So there's 3 unstable curators around the room. You have to kill all 3 of them to summon the book, I'm pretty sure. So you kill the 3 unstable curators. All they do is Heavy Tome, which is just a light tank damage hit. And then Forbidden Knowledge is just a bunch of swirlies on the ground. If you get hit, you get almost 1 shot and then disoriented if you live. Then there's Crystal Furies and the Arcane Elementals. We've been over all those. But now there's a new mob, the Rune Seal Keeper. So the Rune Seal Keeper does Condensed Frost, big tank damage hit, and he does Icy Bindings. And Icy Bindings is a big AoE root cast that does a bunch of damage. If you let it go off, everyone in your party's rooted. All you have to do is CC this or kick it. If you CC, it does not recast. So really easy to do with just have one person, 1 melee kick assigned to it, or 1 CC assignment to it. So like 1 person CCing every cast. Pretty simple. Not much to deal with, and like I said, all these packs are the same mods that we dealt with before, just in different combinations. You still can do the jump down to the second boss's room. I don't think I do it in this video, but you still can do that. You just cannot jump down to the 3rd boss. So yeah, you could. So say you do like these 2 pulls, you can just jump down to the 2nd boss afterwards. Yeah, that's all these mobs. This area is much easier for Brew just because of the fact that they remove the arcane bolts from these mobs. You're just taking less damage. So really nice. Just removing tank damage is great for Brew, and removing kick requirements is really nice. And once you kill all 3 of these unstable curators, you get the book. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit because you guys have seen this pull. Take the book down. And now we're going to get to this new area. So this new area, the only difference, again, is these arcane constructs and these astral attendants. So the astral attendant, all he does is an ability called Unstable Power, which is a CCable cast with no recast, which means if you CC it, it goes on full cooldown. And it just puts a bunch of swirlies on the ground. If you get hit, you die. Simple. And then there's arcane constructs. They do a little barrier that absorbs damage. And they do a arcane bash, which is a stationary frontal. Once it goes off, that means you can move out of it, and you just move out of it. That's it. So you're going to see these pulls. You're going to see the arcane bash cast. There's the root cast, arcane bash. I kind of killed somebody there. That wasn't my fault. There's condensed frost. There's the shield. There's the bash again, and you just move out of it. So this pull is just like infinity frontals, and you see I got hit there by the bash, and I just got knocked back. And you just have a little... So as Brew, if you're doing this key, I would highly recommend just playing... every time you do a multiple Crystal Fury pack, just always do like Para, then Sweep, then Rop, and that's it. And then you can just like stop 3 piercing strikes for yourself. You can spec in a Clash if you want to. I'm actually thinking about doing that myself just for an extra stop. And then you go take the book, you go over to the second boss area. So the second boss area is... I'm going to pause it really quick. There's one really important mob here, the Vault Guard. And the Vault Guard and the Lieutenant, they're basically the same mob. The Lieutenant has 1 extra ability. So the Vault Guard does an ability called Ice Cutter. This is Frost Strike damage, which means it's part Fizz, part Magic. This is dodgeable by like your Mastery and stuff like that. And the Lieutenant also does it, but the Lieutenant has an aura around him that increases all damage dealt by 25%. So that's going to hurt, and he does a Spell Frost Breath. The Spell Frost Breath you can roll out of because he's stationary while channeling it. But yeah, this pack is pretty rough. It's pretty easy on Brew compared to other tanks because, like I said, Frost Strike damage is half Fizz, half Magic, so you're double mitigating it. A lot of tanks don't double mitigate it and are relying on block, like Paladin in this season. If you guys played Paladin or Blood Decay back in Azure Vault in Season 1, on a high fort key, the Lieutenant would clap you. He would just straight up one-bang you if you weren't careful. So... that's it. This area is really easy for Brew. You just have to kite the Spell Frost Breath. That's the only really hard part. I would pretty much, if you don't have Diffuse or like a big cooldown going, I would pretty much always just roll out of it, and then like use ROP or sweep or something to keep the mobs on top of the lieutenant so people can AoE them down. Now this next boss has a big frontal. It's called Arcane Cleave. You're gonna see it. You can roll out of this. Be careful when you're rolling out of it because you're always gonna want to roll towards the ad, and the ad is literally just kick till it dies. When it dies, it does a bunch of puddles on the ground. And so whenever she's about to hit 100 energy, I think it's 100 energy, you drag, or 0 energy, I think it's 0 energy. And then you just drag it to the middle, or drag it to the edge, so she has a hard time walking to the middle. So like here, I didn't do a very good job of it. I could have walked her all the way to the edge, and that means you get more damage type of time on her. And then during this ad phase, you just kill these ads, dodge the ball. Ideally, you want to multi-dot these. Anytime you have like a brewmaster in your group, you always want to leave the low one. Like you can, as long as it's like 1.6 mil or high, like a 1.7, 1.8 mil. You can just leave it in the Brooding Touch of Death. I think I roll out of this one. No, I just tank this one. I might roll out of one of them, but yeah. Also, just dodge the Arcane Orb, that's it. This fight's pretty simple. Really straightforward, nothing to it. It's just the only really hard part is the ad phase, I'd say. That's usually the part people struggle with. This part's really easy, it's just kill ad. If you're playing with the DK, by the way, you can just grip these little ads into the melee range, which is really nice. Yeah, I drag it to the edge here, and it's going to start running towards the center. And yeah, you just get more milk time on it. You just kill these ads. Super simple, straightforward. I'm going to go to the next part. So this next part is probably the hardest part for a lot of groups for the entire dungeon. So this next part is where the Draconic Breakers are, and these Draconic Breakers do 2 abilities. They do Shoulder Slam, which is now not a knockback, but it also increases your physical damage taken by 10%, and he does Bestial Roar, which is just a big AoE that does fizz damage. So, more fizz damage taken, not great. And then there's the Frogs. They do a Leap on the ground. You can CC this during the cast, and they won't recast. You can also ROP where they're going to jump, and it keeps them from hitting the ground. And then there's the Terrasec Delver, which just puts a bleed on you. You can dwarf it off. So, this whole area is literally just live the charge Bestial Roar combo. Don't get hit by the swirlies on the ground. And yeah, that's about it. The hardest part for the tank is the Shoulder Slam plus Delver combo. So the Shoulder Slam plus Delver means you get the Tear Flesh plus the Shoulder Slam debuff. That will kill you. It does a crap ton of damage together on a high 4 key as Brew, so be very careful of that. You can also dodge the Shoulder Slam, by the way, so if you're like a rogue, you can like evasion it. As you saw, like I dodged that one. I did not dodge this one, but I dodged one before it. And that's about it for the whole area. So this there's a double breaker pack at the top here, or at the very end here, and you can skip this with like Transcendence Meld. You can just die. You can have a Hunter do it. You can have an Outlaw Rogue evasion to the side and then grapple through, vanish and click the book. I just die here, I'm pretty sure, or we do it. I don't really remember. And we pair a ROP, we skip this because we have too much percent. I'm pretty sure I die for this one. I don't remember. Yeah, I do. Good. You just pull it to this corner over here, everyone runs past, they click the book, and then I get roast. And these mobs are just not worth doing. They take too long. The percent's not great. They only give 1.95%. So, yeah. This next boss has literally 3 abilities. He does the little swirlies around your feet, the Frost Bomb, and you just like put these in a semi-organized pattern. Don't put it on top of the safe spots which you're about to see, and he does Icy Devastator, which is just a channel beam. You can Vanish, Feign, Shadow Meld it. Then this little safe spot, he does Absolute Zero. You stand in this glowing circle, and this will deactivate after 1 use. And he does Absolute Zero. You just make sure you're top defense of this. If it one-shots you, it shouldn't one-shot you until like high Tyrannical, so we won't worry too much about that, but yeah, make sure you're topped. And if you're not top, pop a defensive. Then he booms. And that's it. You just rinse repeat this the entire phase. Absolutely nothing to it. You can do what the DH did and like jump off the edge if you want to conserve space. Gonna let this video play. Like I said, if you're like a Vanish or Shadow Meld class, you can always get that IC Devastator off. Then you just go to the safe spot. And these puddles do clear, and eventually you can go back to your original save spot. They go on order. So like once you pick the first one, and then you just go to the next one, and then the next one, and then the first one reactivates. Gonna fast forward to the last boss. So this last boss is probably the hardest one for tanks. So they changed, the only mechanic they changed on him is the way the crystals work. So the crystals spawn closer to him in general, and they also have the big one also has a big shield on it, and that does pulsing AoE damage. Dragon Strike, you want to have a defensive cooldown for each one, so you can Celestial Brew every other, and then defensive the ones in between. And if you tag him against the wall currently on PTR, he bugs out and doesn't spawn some of them. I think you'll see it in this. But yeah, you just defensive every single one. As you can see, that was my weakest Celestial Brew and almost one-shots me. But all the other ones will be strong and have Purified Chi stacks. So you remember tanking him against the wall in Season 1 just to group the crystals? The crystals kind of auto-group now. And see, he only spawns one. This is just because of a bug you can do on the PTR. And that's it. That's literally the whole... Oh, he also does Unstable Destruction. And that's just big AoE damage, knockback right there. Doesn't really hit that hard. It's pretty weak, actually. And they removed the slow on this fight. So this fight is just significantly easier. Not hard. As you can see, another one crystal. He does crystals at 75, 50, 25. So he only does 3 crystal phases. And the crystal, when you go to the break point of the crystal, so like say he's casting Dragon Strike, hit 75, it'll cancel the Dragon Strike and spawn the crystals. Also just dodge these orbs, and they will pretty much just kill you. This fight's just significantly easier, mostly because of the movement restriction being removed, and then the crystal is fairly easy. It's kind of nice they added like an actual like damage mechanic in this fight, but all you had to do is make sure you save defensive and offensive cooldowns for the crystals. So like Grief Torch, Touch of Death, Beacon, just any high single target. And yeah, that's it. That's literally the whole dungeon. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll have the route link down below, and have a good one.